Hi, Virginia. I hope this little holiday message finds you in excellent spirits and even better health. I made a little video message for you to help you to understand all the stuff that was in that package that I sent to you, and also to give you some tips on how you might want to go about helping your students assemble it. Of course, it's nothing more than a translation exercise with a little bit of a present at the end just to help keep their interest. I found it online. I estimate that it dates back to maybe 1920s, possibly the 1930s. While beautifully designed and executed, the engineering left a little bit to be desired, so I sort of re-engineered it. Hopefully it'll make it work a little bit better. I hope you have a good time with it. I see my son over there. He's wondering, who's Daddy talking to? I hope you have a good time with this. Let me know what you think of it. I've got many, many more, and I'll be happy to help you out in any way that I can. Merry Christmas to you, Virginia.
Virginia, I've given you a supply of brass wire that you can use to form the pivots for the various parts. In order to make use of these, to make the pivots, just use a regular pair of scissors. I've got some dedicated cutting pliers, but use a regular pair of scissors and then to cut the wire, and then use some cuticle scissors to form the wire in a loop like so. I think you can see that. Hopefully you can see that okay. And then give the wire a twist. Doesn't have to be much. And then pull it off, and you should have a piece that looks something like that. The French were pretty clever way back when. This particular design is drawn by a gentleman, I guess a gentleman, by the last name of Pouf, P-O-U-F. And I have a number of his designs in my files. The problem is that he wasn't a very good mechanical engineer. And so when I went to build the model, I found that it didn't work quite that well, so I re-engineered the mounting locations. And so what you're going to find when you start handing out the parts to your children, to your students rather, is that I have pre-punched the holes in the part with the little girl. You'll see that there are two separate holes for F and E that are different than the locations and than the marked locations. And then on the back piece, instead of punching J and I here, I found that these locations were far better. And you'll see the holes that are punched already, and all I used to punch the holes was this little thumbtack. Nothing fancy, just something really simple. To make the parts work a little more smoothly and to keep it from coming apart, you'll notice that I taped the little ears of the pivot points down to the parts. This may or may not be necessary for your students. Once again, you may get a perfectionist in there who wants to make sure that everything works perfectly. Just let them know that they can do this. Hopefully this is going to show properly, but in order to assemble the parts together, you take your little pivot. You'll notice that it's still flat. See if I can show it to you here. And insert it through the holes that you punch in the parts, and then using your fingers just sort of flatten that piece out. And again, this is going to be difficult to show, but you'll notice that you don't see any loop. And then you can start assembling your little Christmas card. You'll notice that I'm putting some shims on here, and that's to make your large size version work extra special well. No doubt you're going to have a student in your class who really wants his or her model to work exceptionally well, and you may use your model as an example to show them how to shim it so that the parts move together a little more fluidly. The final assembly is not too tricky. You just merely fit the two parts together. It's tricky for me since I'm standing behind this camera trying to show you. Final assembly is not critical, but it is important that you get those lever arms oriented properly. C and D must be oriented like this in order for it to work. Otherwise, the little Santa Claus, the weird-looking Father Christmas, gets jammed up very easily. You'll see that the pivot points I and J line up with F and A. And here's the final assembly. I'll see if I can do this over the camera for you. You'll notice that I have my lever arms in the correct position, and I merely slide the wire into A, pull the little tabs over, and then similarly I'll slide them into the part on the little girl, and that will be F as far as you're concerned. And pull the little arms over, and I'll take those things off eventually, and then voila, it works. When I went to build my first one, I found that Poof's instructions, and here's his name right down here, Poof's instructions call for you to put a couple of shims at number 1 and number 2, but I found that that just didn't work quite as well as adding a couple of strategically placed pieces of foam core, and that's what I've done on your model. I've got a piece here and a piece here, and it keeps this lever arm straight, and it also supports the bed. And then up here at the top, I've got another piece on the mirror that allows the action to clear, and you can see as I pull on this that the little girl and Santa Claus don't get in the way. Again, these are just refinements that I've added to the larger models, and if you get a student who really wants to go crazy and make his miniature model work even better than originally designed, then you can show them how to add little bits of foam core. And the only thing that I did was I just used Aleene's tacky glue as opposed to Elmer's glue. Aleene's works very quickly, and it's not nearly as liquid as Elmer's. But tape will work just as well, double-sided sticky tape, just about anything that you can come up with in the classroom, because really the whole exercise was for them to translate the French instructions and have a little gizmo to show at the end of it. And that's all. I hope you have a good time. Let me know how it worked out. Merry Christmas, Virginia.